Hello, everybody. Fernando Labastida, and I'm here with Jimmy Jobe, CEO, co-founder of Verge Technologies, the world's first cloud convergence platform with their product SentientDB. And we're here in the interview as part of the series of interviews about the upcoming Cloud Convergence Summit, uh, taking place October 8th and 9th, completely virtual, online. Tickets are free. You just have to, have an interest in how to improve your performance in the cloud, especially if you have tons and tons of data in different clouds. So, Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us on the call. Let's just get right into it. What made you decide to have this summit? What's the mission? What's the message that you wanted to get out there to the broader universe of companies who have a lot of, if not all, their data in different clouds?
Over the last 10 years, lots of things have changed relative to company and the public clouds that most have migrated to. 10 years ago, it was all about getting in one cloud and one throat to choke and just get everything in one cloud. And then enterprises being what they are, they typically have a distributed footprint. The next thing that happens is that you're doing business in some place that doesn't have a data center that service provider can have access to. So you go select another service provider, and then trying to integrate back and move data in between those different cloud environments is always challenging, and it's complex, and it's fraught with error, right? So as those things changed the market, we're now seeing that most enterprises use an average between 4 and 7 different service providers in order to cover their distributed footprint and operations, right? And if you think about that and you say, wow, and I'm just going to use some examples here. If I've got some of my things in AWS, and I have some in Azure and some in Oracle and some in Google and some in, 500 others around the globe, then you start saying my business processes, I need to be able to have almost a green field. I need to be able to move data in and across those different environments in order to run my operations. But as important as that is, then the next thing is, where are all my applications hosted? How can I monitor my applications and my databases to ensure that they stay up? And then you come to what I'm going to call the real brain damage here, is the fact that every one of those service providers are silos, and they have their own tools, but their own tools only service that side, that Azure silo or that Google or AWS silo. They don't allow you to provide a management fabric that goes across all of those to manage all of those assets in a unified manner and allow you to take corrective or even autonomous actions in order to correct performance. So that, what we call that unified management, is cloud convergence, and that is managing many clouds as one cloud, right? And that's the ability to be able to correct performance issues, be able to avoid or prevent downtime, to make zero downtime possible. All right. And you only get that through a unified management of your assets that can look across your enterprise, be able to move, for example, your database from one location to another location transparently, zero downtime, zero transaction loss, 100% transaction consistency, and being able to orchestrate and ensure that your data processing environments stay up, that they're resilient, that they're fault tolerant, and to whatever degree you want, they can be autonomous. In other words, as those issues come up, you're writing some policies that allow them to act autonomously within those policies to do your direction should that performance degradation come into play. So things have changed dramatically, but there's not the tools and the platforms that are available today to support what's already happened, right? People have already diversified. They're already moved into multi-cloud environments, but yet there are no management systems that can move across all of those environments to monitor, to take preventative action before a downtime occurrence happens, to correct performance issues, to correct workload issues, to be able to scale out and scale in within and across different cloud environments in order to provide that enterprise the ability to stay up no matter what. So that's one factor, that cloud convergence, that 4 to 7 different service providers is one factor that's really driving this. The other factor is the fact that we've seen in the last year, 2 years, we could go back 10 years, but especially in the last few years, major cloud service providers, and I don't need to name one because they all have gone down more than once, right? Is that they have an outage. And if you have all of your data processing within that service provider, guess what? You're going to go down too, right? So
Yeah.
the other aspect of this is the fact that you're already having to, as an enterprise, work in multi-cloud environments. But are you doing that by accident? Or are you doing that by design, right? So in a multi-cloud where you have the ability to orchestrate, to migrate, to scale out within and across cloud environments gives you the ability to keep your processing going through redundancy, through failover to different environments without taking that outage when that silo, that service provider silo goes down, right? So multi-cloud and being able to do cloud convergence where you can manage all of your infrastructure, all of your operations in a unified manner is where we're going. In another 5 years, with the assistance of technologies such as AI, we're going to be able to autonomously manage within and across all of those environments as if they were in one virtual data set, right? We've done that data with SentientDB. We can do that today. We can implement it in your enterprise tomorrow. But there's a lot of other things relative to applications, relative to other types of infrastructure, relative to a lot of different variables that need to come to the market. And part of this is that awareness, right? That awareness that there is a different way to look at a multi-cloud environment, and you can use it as an asset, or you can use it as a liability. You can use it as a swivel chair, or you can use it to actually improve the resilience and the failover and the ability of your enterprise to stay moving no matter what happens to one individual service provider. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you said so many kind of like paradigm shifting things there, and so many things that are just so important to enterprises, and then also consumers' ability to stay in touch with the enterprises, especially if they're mission critical for the consumers. So, for example, the possibility or the capability of zero downtime, right? And also the fact that companies have already kind of found themselves by happenstance in a multi-cloud environment, but the management of that multi-cloud environment is haphazard and chaotic and not planned.
Swivel chair.
And what you provide is that the swivel chair management. I'm managing my Oracle cloud over here, and then I'm managing my AWS over here, et cetera. And it's just, and I've got to think that, the hours that can be saved from a cloud manager's, cloud professional's life from having to do that. And then also being able to protect data from downtime, like those, the downtime incidences that you talked about from last year, those caused real disruption. Those cause real
disruption to enterprise.
Huge costs, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And some of those costs are indirect. They come from public trust issues, right? They come from all other than just strictly monetary, right? And so if you think about the fact that what's possible today, where we're going, then you have then the ability to react and start planning and start moving in that direction, right? In order to really provide that resilience relative to data processing environments. One of the hardest things to manage, and the reason I guess no one really does it, is your databases that are processing all of your data and putting it in files and storage. And so that database is a stateful machine, right? You can't miss it. You've got whatever you do to manage that database, it has to be basically perfect, right? And so we chose to tackle that first, right? To be able to manage, to migrate, to scale out, to scale in, to replicate, to fail over with zero downtime, zero transaction loss, and 100% transparency to the end user. All the time that database, for
Right.
example, is taking a corrective action to move to a larger server or split its workload across multiple, you're never down. You're never losing a transaction. You're processing. Your end users never know that database moved from Denver to LA. Have complete access to it all the time. So being able to have that mobility, right? To have that transparency, to have the ability to autonomously rules that govern the behavior of that database and take action when that behavior needs to be brought back into 100% optimization. So that's what we're providing, database management across your enterprise. We provide a fabric that allows you to manage all of your databases across your enterprise, regardless of where they're hosted anywhere in the world, regardless of service provider, regardless of what hardware they're hosted on, to be able to independently manage and optimize the performance of that data processing environment. That's where we're providing that solution for databases today, and where I believe the industry really needs to shift in order to provide coverage for a huge gap that's out there outside of databases.
Yeah. Yeah. And so part of the mission then of this summit is to make the industry aware, and especially, these people who have to do this swivel chair management and have been subjects before to these downtimes because maybe they were too dependent on one cloud, et cetera, is to sort of let them know that, this is the new paradigm. This is the new thing. We don't have to live through this substandard infrastructure situation that's kind of the default in the industry today. And then what I think is important too is that as AI is becoming more and more the kind of like the default part of the way we live every day, with data centers going up, and there's a lot of controversy with building data centers, and people are in the people have the NIMBY attitude, not in my backyard thing, but still, we're seeing a growth in all these AI data centers. This is going to become a more acute issue going forward. And I was wondering if with this summit, what are some of the things that you want CTOs, CIOs, directors of IT, cloud directors to think about in terms of what can they expect in the future in terms of risks, and what should they be thinking about in terms of this new paradigm of cloud convergence?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the I believe that it's probably a threefold answer there, right? One thing that I'd like to accomplish is just the awareness that you're finding yourself in a multi-cloud environment, or else you want to be in a multi-cloud environment because You believe it will provide better operational resilience across your data processing environments, right? And so as you think about that journey, the benefits are there. If we look at IT and we look at CIOs, and I've been a CIO of large organizations, right? You're under constant pressure to reduce costs. You're under constant pressure to improve productivity. You're under constant pressure for decreased downtime, and definitely under a lot of pressure for zero outages that's going to affect your enterprise's customers, right? So how do you typically get those productivity increases? You typically get that through automation, right? And being able to provide automation in today's world through technologies such as AI allows you not only to monitor, not only to predict outcomes, but then to take action to prevent those outcomes from ever happening, from ever manifesting themselves into a risk for you and your customers, right? So within a particular cloud environment, I'm just going to use Amazon AWS as an example, but it could be any of them, right? They have a lot of database tools, right? As it would relate to our particular products. They have tools that will help you migrate, tools that will help you scale, tools that'll do this and that. But they're all work in the AWS environment, right? And they're all either proprietary or vendor-specific tools that work in AWS, right? They may not work in Oracle, they may not work in Google, but they work in AWS, right? And so you have a set of tools, but there's no real glue that holds all those a la carte tools together and allows you to automate the management, control, and controlling the behavior of that database in real time at runtime, much less to move and manage across AWS to Azure, where you also have things, and Google, where you still have things, right? And Oracle, where you may have things, and proprietary data centers, where you may have different sets of tools that work in that one environment. The automation allows you to unify the management, to be able to take each database or each class of database or each grouping of databases and look at your SLAs and manage to the SLAs that your customers are holding you to, and do that in an automated managed way that provides what I'm going to call a self-managing and self-healing environment that's managing, predicting results, taking action to bring optimization back into that database or in that group of databases so that they can continue to perform their job and provide your operations the data that it needs.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is going to be I think an exciting summit, and you have lots of exciting speakers. The lineup is slowly being revealed. We don't want to give away the farm right now, but I think the first speaker that we announced was Jacqueline Sutton, founder and CEO of MagenTrust. Yep. And then we're going to be announcing more speakers as the time goes, right? So that we can keep people sitting on the edge of their seats. But, tell us a little bit about, with the remaining time we have here, because we have limited time for the interview, tell us a little bit about, Jacqueline Sutton and MagenTrust and how that sort of fits into this whole picture.
Yes. Yeah. MagenTrust, what they were really good at is defining what I'm going to call human in the loop, or validating human in the loop. In today's world of AI bots, sneak attacks, and security, being able to know that as you take decisions that affect your data processing environments, that affect how things are stored, how things are stored, where they're stored, all of those factors, you need to verify that there is a human in that loop and the bots aren't making those decisions, but someone you hired and you trust is making those decisions on your behalf. So being able to use that additional functionality and integrate it with SentientDB for our customers that have one product or the other and won't both, right? It is the ability to, when we make decisions or autonomous decisions around how to correct the behavior or the performance of a database, knowing and validating that someone who actually works there, who is in operations, who is in database management, actually made that decision, right, to move that database from Denver to LA, or to split the workload of that data across 5 other databases in order to handle the workload. And so being able to have, verify, and audit, provide an audit trail that assures that there is a human in that loop at all times, and it's a trusted human in that loop, is, I think, very valuable to organizations and enterprises as we move more and more toward this multi-cloud environment and we start unifying the management within and across different cloud environments. It makes that security, that validation, that much more important.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us. You're a busy CEO, startup founder. You're a serial entrepreneur, as well as having been with some of the largest IT companies in the past. So this is another round for you. So I'll give you your time back. And just to remind everybody that if you want to sign up for the summit, it's completely free. You go to https://summit.vergetech.cloud. Again, it's summit.vergetech.cloud, October 8th through 9th. It's completely virtual, completely online. If you register and for some reason you can't make some of the sessions, they'll be recorded and you'll be able to get them 48 hours after the summit. Thank you so much, Jimmy, and we will see you next
Fernando.
time.
All right. Talk to you later. Thank you.